All right, it's 11 o'clock. I think we're ready to get started. So welcome everyone. This is our third COVID-19 challenge project showcase. And today we'll be talking about tools to help residents maintain social distancing in busy locations. My name is Agla Shaw and I work in the local digital collaboration unit, which is part of the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. Now that lockdown has ended, I hope that today's presentations will give you some good ideas on how to safely visit Newcastle city centre and Bournemouth seaside. Before we start, here's a little bit of housekeeping. So you may have noticed, but we are recording this event and we will be making it available on our YouTube channel. We'll also send out a follow-up email with links to more information about the projects you hear from today and any other relevant links that are shared in today's presentations. Do please keep yourselves on mute. You can ask questions in the chat, so please do that as we go. There will be 5 minutes for questions after each presentation, and we'll put all your questions that you post in the chat to the speakers. If you are presenting or taking part in a discussion, then please turn on your cameras so we can see who you are. And we will be hearing from 2 fascinating projects today about this really important subjects. So you will hear from BCP Council, who will tell you all about their beach check application, and Newcastle, who will talk to you about their How Busy is Toon projects. The event will be around an hour long, and we aim to wrap up by midday. So I hope you can stick with us for the whole thing. But just before I hand off to our projects, I'd like to give you a little bit of background to our work. So we support local government efforts to work together, and we do this in mainly 3 ways. So we do it by funding and supporting collaborative projects that solve common problems. We provide funding to council staff to develop their digital capabilities, and we bring people together to share their work and learn from each other. So on your screens, you can see the 5 commitments of the local digital declaration. Our funded projects help us show how these principles work in practice. So you can read the whole thing on our website, which is localdigital.gov.uk. But in a nutshell, the declaration is a shared vision for the future of local services. And this is something that we collectively aspire and hold ourselves accountable to in our work on digital data and technology in local government. And to give you a bit more information about the declaration, so back in 2018, 45 organizations from local governments, central government departments, and also sector bodies like the LGA, they co-authored the declaration. So this is not something that we just came up with ourselves. And to date, 223 councils from across the UK, they signed the declaration. And our signatories get some great benefits, like the access to free training courses, or they can apply for funding through digital funds. So if you've not already signed up, please do go to our website and find out more about this. And this year, you all know it's been a really challenging time for local governments, and they have been at the forefront of COVID-19 response and recovery. So to support the sector, we launched the local digital COVID-19 challenge. We did it in the summer, and the purpose of the fund was to give money to new or existing work that is responding to a pressing needs that could deliver a tangible output within about 2 months. And also we asked that it can be reused by other councils. Altogether, we received 123 applications, and we funded 12 projects in areas ranging from information sharing to community engagement and better work practices. And so on to today's showcase, you'll be hearing from 2 out of those 12 projects. I will soon hand off to Andrew and Xavier from BCP Council to tell you a little bit more about their work on their beach checkup. So on to you.
Thank you so much, Ego. I will share my screen now. I think Andrew is still in the waiting room, probably. As he was saying. Anyhow, this is our beach check application in the evolution that was ideated coming from the funds we received from the MHLG in this COVID-19, let's say, bid. We have prepared this presentation to let you see how this application was evolved, and how the systems and the technology we have put in place to make it happen have been finally gone to the final target, which was creating a very meaningful application. For this demo day, we are counting with on Andrew Emery, which is the Resort Development and Strategic Planning Manager in the Tourist Department in the Council. I don't know if Andrew is here in the session.
I'm really sorry. I'm looking in the waiting room, but I haven't seen him yet. As soon as I see him, I'll let him in.
All right, I'll move on. No worries. Thank you so much. Myself, I'm Xavi Núñez. I am the Smart Place Engagement Manager. I've been, the one project managing this application development, and we are counting on the three companies that are part of the R&D consortium, which is our community, let's say, digital technology ecosystem, that have contributed to the development of this application in several, let's say, parts of the application, as you will see further on. We have set up this agenda very quick, just to let you know what was the background. Obviously, most of you may know our characteristics in terms of tourist destination. We've been named the best beach in the UK, so we are attracting a large number of visitors every year with this kind of accreditation in terms of blue flags and seaside award beaches. And we have a 13 miles coastline, so this is a very massive, let's say, landmark and a place where, COVID-wise, different situations, issues can be created. So considering this 13 miles and the fact that we are receiving 12.6 million annual visitors, something needed to be done. Obviously, in terms of economy, we are holding 19,000 local jobs, and this is pretty much our aim, is to promote the local economy, and we'll tell you how. And the touristic, let's say, the tourist sector is a very, let's say, is a priority in terms of the council policies. Well, why the application was needed? Very, very brief and very easy. Well, in several stages of the lockdown, and in periods where the lockdown was lifted, well, we received this, large amount of visitors in days where weather was completely was favorable to, and so it was creating the situations where the beach was completely overcrowded, till a point where in May, a major incident was declared by the council, because obviously there was it was completely, absolutely impossible to manage that situation in terms of the COVID social distancing and giving the proper information to the general public and avoiding these situations and preventing them from happening. So we had to do something different. We had to do something better and try to give information in terms of to the visitors, in terms of what it was suitable to visit in terms of beach and the surrounding areas, and in a very positive way, actually, in a way that they were receiving this information and they were even using it in a friendly way. So we decided to move on and create this application, as you will see, with the aim of helping people to keep social distancing. That's the first priority, but you can see is helping people to keep that distancing. It's not like forcing or, let's say, creating any kind of, let's say, something that is not just about helping. So this collaborative way was, in the very beginning, was one of the first aims of the idea. And obviously, helping us ourselves to predict even to critical situations. You will see that there is a predictive way to see and to foresee what the situation is going to be like in next days. And obviously, if we may know in advance what is going to happen, or we can know in real time what is going on. We can act, we can respond in a very quick way and find a way to mitigate the issue that is going on. And obviously, we want to create an innovative digital data-centric development because, in the council, there is this DNA of, innovating, and by using digital technologies. We are holding this Smart Place program in which I am working on, and that's part of the core of the council for next science. So when we detected that we started to design the application. When we were doing it, the major incident was declared, so it reassured in terms of that needed to be done. We created the first phase. I will tell you about it right now in a minute, but then realized that we needed a further evolution of this phase one, and in this phase one, we created the app. Basically and essentially a very nice and very agile and a very friendly app by which a user could just, let's say, go to a big segment and see how it was in terms of occupancy and maybe changing their mind in terms of going to this segment and to another one. So it was something that was really usable and really friendly to use for users. But it was relying in a very manual way in terms of the back end, meaning the application, the front end was there, and obviously the users were using it, but there was a version for rangers and for lifeguards that were present in the seafront, and they were informing to the application backend in terms of how crowded was the segment in every moment they were checking it. So this checking was completely manual. So for a further evolution, we had, very clear that we had to create something, let's say, more real time, more based on AI and machine learning, and something that can give us more real time, let's say, information. So the way to do it is, in the first moment, is okay, we want the predictive model, so we need to gather different historic information, and by using AI, we want to create this predictive model. And after that, we have this, prediction for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We want to know in real time what's going on right now. So we needed to acquire data from different subsystems. One of them is the CCTV, let's say, system throughout the seafront, and you will see, by using footfall sensors as well. So this way we can have this semi-real-time front-end update, so we can color these segments in a very agile way, in a very, let's say, very often and a very accurate way. And so finally, the application can give us these warnings if something's going on. And this further evolution, here it is, we were creating these subsystems so that then the backend was completely different. We had, obviously, we wanted to keep this manual, let's say, backend in terms of always a ranger and a lifeguard can just set up or can launch kind of a warning on an update to the application. But the update on the information for each segment is relying on A, the CCTV footage analysis, you will see it now, and B, into footfall sensors that are monitoring in real time the people, the users that are visiting each one of the segments where we do have these sensors. And then obviously this predictive algorithm that I was mentioning before, this algorithm is analyzing the historic data and is learning from future events and deciding whether if there's going to be some kind of issue in next days. So this is this is plugged into our city brain. Our city brain is a service bus the system is called Orchestra, which is supplied by one of the companies that has been working on this application extension. And then the backend connects to this city brain and is gathering this data coming from the subsystems to then upgrade this front end that Expert has created for us. So this is the block diagram. but I think the best way to see it is by watching the demo. We have prepared a video where you can see all the storytelling in terms of technology of the application. I hope it's not gonna last very long, but obviously technology-wise, let's see. There we go. Please, okay, here it is.
It seems to be loading.
Yeah, it's loading, definitely it is. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone, welcome to BCP Beat Check app demo. The app is really useful for tourists and local who wants to visit the Bournemouth Crested Pool coastal area. They can see the congestion status of the beach before they visit the area so that they are safe and can maintain social distancing. The app shows the congestion in traffic light system in red and green flags. So let's quickly jump on to the app inside. Once we go for view congestion, the app shows the entire coastal line of Bournemouth Crested Pool, which is divided into different zones. And the zones are marked as red and green through AI backend, which gets the feed from CCTV and automatically push the status here. The status also, there is an option to override by rangers or lifeguards who can override the status. We can also search for a particular beach area if we quickly want to jump onto a particular location. So we'll search for Bournemouth Beach West for the demonstration. And once zoomed in and we tap onto the zone, it will give us some more details about that particular beach location. It tells us the congestion status, current congestion status. It tells us whether it's lifeguarded, public toilets are available, dogs are permitted to exercise, cycling and BBQ, whether they are permitted. Along with that, it also tells us the forecast for next couple of days. The forecast can be viewed for entire coastal line from the map screen. We can quickly jump on to tomorrow and day after tomorrow, and it'll tell us the forecast for the entire coastline. Now, once we click on the more information, the I button, it gives us the option to showcase another locations around the beach area, such as the parking and toilet area, which user can quickly filter through. Along with this, the app has a feature for setting the accessibility setting for colorblinds who can replace the green, orange, red colors to color of their choices so that they can see those colors comfortably through the app. So along with this, there are features for giving the feedback and giving the FAQ as well in the user application. Now we'll look at the backend AI and see how the data is being pushed and reflected here. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Mark Parsonage. I'm from a company called Extension. We're based in Europe and we have customers around the world where we help healthcare facilities with their IT solutions. As part of this, we often integrate IT systems, and for this we have an enterprise service bus called Orchestra. Orchestra actually originated in the industry and business sector, so it's an ideal solution for the Beach App platform. On this slide, we have an overview of the architecture that has been implemented for the solution. And today we're going to run through each of the various parts. So we'll start with the CCTV image processing at the top left here. We'll then look at the footfall sensors. We'll look at the prediction algorithm, and then we'll see how Orchestra brings all these different feeds together and sends them through to the API that powers the Beach App. So first, we're going to look at the CCTV images and the historical data and how Orchestra handles these. So here is an example image of a beach, and here we're going to show you how we can analyze that image and establish whether it's busy or not busy. So you can quite clearly see that, as you'd expect, it's a picture of a beach. So the sand is predominantly yellow, and it's the main part of the image. So it's fairly straightforward to see that if we can then identify the colours in the image, we can identify whether it's sandy or not sandy, which would be the case when there are a lot of people on the beach. So in order to isolate the area that we're interested in, we crop the image and target the beach area itself rather than the, in this case, hedges and cliff face around it. So here we can see the output of the analysis that we can run on the image. This black box in the middle is the technical output, but around the outside I've put some colour explanations to make it a little bit clearer. So we can see the first sort of 3 parts of the image are the sand colour, and then the final part on the right here sort of approximates to the top left, which, if you remember, was the sea. So obviously, in the interest of GDPR, we can't really show you a real image of people on the beach. So we've mocked up a preview of people, which just gives you an idea of roughly how it would appear when there's the beach is more busy and populated. So if you remember back, we also had the crop area. So you can imagine that we're focusing just on that middle area. So we've gone from quite a yellow image to one with all different types of colours, but predominantly dark. And that difference is reflected in the processing that we do on the image. So you can see we've still got sort of some sand at the start here at the top. We've still got the sea, because that's not changed at all, still 13%. And now we've got this 11% of kind of dark area. So that tells us that it's changed, and therefore we can tell that there's people on it because we can identify the different colours. So this one is obviously dark. And what we find is in the summer, the colours are a bit lighter. So you can imagine people come to the beach more in kind of lighter clothing or bright coloured umbrellas and the like. So once we've got the image data, we can plug it into Orchestra. And here we've got the flow that is created within the service bus. So on the left-hand side, we take in the image, we get the image colours, which we've just seen, we parse out the parts we're interested in. We can then do what's called a mapping. So that's taking the colours, we run them through the algorithm, and that outputs a status. So that's a red, orange or green, which we can then send through to Expert Nest in order to power the app. And then on the right-hand side here, we've just got a bit of a technical section, which is error checking and handling that side of things. So each camera points in a different place, so we have to use different values for each camera, and then we have it trained based on different factors. So we use historical images based on different levels of congestion and different weather conditions. So that way we know the sort of colours we're expecting. And then we see this as an ongoing process. You know, there's always opportunities to tune algorithms like this. So we store the data and the output so that we can go back and revisit it in the future. I'll now move on to the footfall sensors, because some areas of the beach aren't covered by CCTV so comprehensively. So we can take the data from the footfall sensors in. This is quite a straightforward flow, really. They come in, we do a little bit of mapping to categorize the data, and then we send it on to Expert Nest to power the current status values in the app.
Hi, I'm Nick Giles, Chief Product Officer at Daisy. BCP Council uses the Daisy platform to manage low-cost Internet of Things devices across a range of use cases. These include air quality monitoring, real-time traffic flow, car park occupancy sensing, and high street footfall. The Daisy platform manages the life cycle of the equipment from sourcing and inventory through installation, commissioning, and in-life monitoring and alerting. For the Beach App project, the Council has chosen to deploy the Sensors Wi-Fi occupancy scanner. This device is manufactured in the UK. It has a replaceable battery providing 2 years of autonomy and it sends real-time data over the Vodafone.
Sorry about that, seems that it's getting stuck.
NB IoT network. Low power IoT devices can be really cost effective at transmitting real-time data. A device such as this costs around £200.
Okay. Let's buffer.
Significantly cheaper than traditional footfall and occupancy measuring solutions. As it's battery powered, it can be placed in areas without the need to install power, communication or IT infrastructure with a simple setup process through the DAISY.
Sorry about that, since that the video is a large file and maybe the computer is struggling.
The unit passively scans its locality every 30 minutes, counting nearby smartphones.
Oh my goodness.
With about a 50-meter radius as an indication to the number of people in the area. The data is completely anonymous.
I think if everyone agrees,
let me just
we could pause the video and maybe have a quick discussion, just a few questions. If anyone has any questions, put it in the chat. But we will aim to share a copy of the recording in the email afterwards, and people can actually finish watching if that's okay.
Of course.
Device data is combined with project metadata.
It's a shame because it's a very interesting video done by all of them.
Data.
But yeah, it seems like the computer is struggling to present it. The video will be available, so if anyone wants to have a look, more than happy to share it. Just to end it up, just let me just go to the PowerPoint again. Finally, it's just to say that the application was very good, was welcomed by the general public. It had more than 40,000 downloads. All the feedback received through the app has been positive. Obviously, some bits and bobs are needed to be, let's say, fine-tuned, but we are working on that. But in an overall, let's say, picture, we do believe the app is going to be something completely widely adopted by the public. So right now there is an interest in several, let's say, councils from several councils in the UK, and just to say that the fact that this application is completely replicable anywhere where there is, let's say, an aim to create or to have this kind of applications up and running, not just in a seafront, not just in a beach, because it can be done in any crowded area, kind of a urban area, because at the end of the day, the algorithm can work with other, let's say, kind of footage. So the application can be replicated in other places throughout the country. So that's it. Thanks so much, and sorry about the video again.
That's all right. Thanks so much, Xavier. This was a really exciting presentation, and I think, congratulations. It looks amazing. We do have a question for you from Vanessa from North Devon. She's saying that they had similar issues this spring and summer, and they're asking if the app is easily adaptable for other locations, and how much did the development of the app cost, if you can share.
Well, I don't know. I think Andrew is in the meeting right now. Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I am. I do apologise. I struggled to get into the meeting at the beginning. I was going to join into the presentation. So, yes, essentially we are looking at options to potentially roll this app out to other local authorities. We're just exploring how that might be funded. And certainly, I'm very much interested in talking specifically to any local authorities that might be interested in this, just to see what sort of level of demand there may be. So we've got options to roll it out as a single national app, or potentially do essentially clone versions of what we've done. and we can offer it out in different ways, in a very simplistic way, how it worked very successfully this summer, or a more sophisticated version as well.
That sounds great. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for sharing your email address as well. We'll put it in the follow-up email as well, so for anyone wanting to get in touch. Are there any more questions from any guests? No questions. So I just have one more question before we let you go and take a breath. So you said that there are quite a few councils already interested in reusing this app, in their locations, and as we can see from Vanessa, they're interested as well. So what kind of advice would you give to those councils that want to do a similar thing, that maybe recreate the app or just start using something similar?
I think the critical thing for us over the course of this summer was to keep your ambitions very clearly defined. Keep it simple, and in that way we were able to roll it out very effectively. And because there's always a danger with these kinds of apps where you get sort of mission creep and people wanted to achieve more and more functions, and we can achieve all of those things. We can do amazing things. We do all sorts of commercial spin-offs related to it in the future, but I think people need to see a very simple, clear and easy to use function, and we got that back from the feedback that we got from the app, from the the various 40,000 users. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you.
Just to add that sorry. Now, I just wanted to add the fact that this application is very scalable. It means that we can depart from the very basic deployment, and then it can get more complex as it's needed. But as Andrew was saying, I think that the most interesting thing to do is keep it simple in a first deployment. Really focus on the area you want to monitor, and then in the future, let's see how it can evolve.
Brilliant. Thank you both. That's really good advice. Okie doke. I guess it's time for us to move on to our next presentation. So I'll hand off to Jenny from Newcastle City Council to tell you all about how they approached iterating their How Busy is Toon website.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Egli. Bear with me a minute while I just do this. Hopefully, there we are. Hopefully you should be able to see those slides in present mode.
No, we're seeing the ones.
Why did this happen? It's happened before, didn't it?
Yes.
Oh, God. Right, I'll try again. Does it work this time?
Yes, brilliant.
Right. Excellent. There we are. Great. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name's Jenny Nelson. I'm the Digital Newcastle Programme Manager at Newcastle City Council. And I really just want to give you a brief introduction today about how we've developed howbusyIstoon.com to create safer space in Newcastle using open data. And I just want to get straight into the problem that we were trying to solve and why it was so important. But let's go back, what, six or 7 months ago now, and if you know Newcastle at all, you might recognise this as Northumberland Street, which is one of our main retail areas. And Newcastle, I might say this, is known for its Geordie hospitality and pubs and restaurants, and along with retail, there are thousands of people employed within the city centre, generating millions of pounds for the local economy from both the domestic and the tourist trade. But as we know, COVID changed all of that. Shops were shut, workers furloughed, and the city centre turned into a thriving hub of activity to a ghost town, and obviously not just in Newcastle, but in towns and cities up and down the land. And we've all seen headlines like this, and sadly, the horror of the high street really shows no sign of going away with some of the recent announcements in the last week or so. And so in preparation for the end of what was lockdown 1, we recognised within the city that supporting people to feel safe and confident to come back to the city centre was of key importance to the economic vitality of the city. So we clearly identified 4 user needs, being, as a resident, I need to feel safe so that I can confidently return to the city centre. And we knew that from some research done by Durham University, that the severity of the lockdown had a profound effect on people's feelings and emotional response to being in a busy area, in a busy space. And we knew that for many people, this just wasn't something that they were keen to do. As a city centre retailer, I need shoppers to return to the high street so that I can maintain my business. As a local authority, we need residents to return to the city centre so that we can sustain that economic recovery for the benefit of the whole city and protecting jobs and ensuring economic growth. We have an improvement district place, they need to drive customer footfall as well, so that businesses are sustainable. So we felt there were a number of clear user needs within the problem. And if you've ever heard me talk before, then you'll probably have heard me talk about the sort of smart city collaboration that we have in place in Newcastle between the private, public and academic sector. And you'll probably also have heard me talk about the wealth of sort of urban data that we have within Newcastle, mainly collected by the Urban Observatory at Newcastle University, which is Europe's largest source of urban open data. And of course, we have the world-leading National Innovation Centre for Data, again at Newcastle University. So perhaps unsurprisingly, when faced with the problems and those users, we wanted to test the idea that we could use some of that data that's collected around busyness in the city in some way to help respond to the challenges. And what that meant initially was taking intelligent footfall data capture, such as this, generating data like this, which had been openly available for years, and turn it into this, which was our zero cost prototype of howbusyistune.com, which went live on the 2nd of July, just in time for the reopening of the shops. And the key features were that it was applying data analytics to footfall and car parking data, to apply a traffic light banner, which is very lightly green at the bottom, I don't know if you can see very clearly, but a traffic light banner, red, amber, and green, indicating busyness. And actually, when I look at it now, I kind of cringe a little bit compared to how it is. But actually, the feedback was fantastic. We were absolutely thrilled with how well received it was. And other cities got in touch and other organisations got in touch, and the reach on social was fantastic. People started making suggestions about things that they would like to see. And actually, understandably as well, there was some feedback from people around, well, actually, where's this data coming from? And, how is it being collected, and the privacy implications of the work that we were doing. But for me, the beta release really demonstrated that there was citizen interest in data if it's shared in a meaningful way. And as I say, that footfall and parking data had been available openly for years, but nobody had really had the need, I suppose, or the desire to just go and search it out. But if you present it to people in a different way, then people were more engaged. And it was perfect timing that the Digital Fund Challenge came along, because we then pitched into that, and thankfully we were successful in our application to scale up How Busy Is Toon and look at how we share that across other cities and towns as well. And we basically hit the ground running with a local digital agency called Hedgehog Lab, who went right back to user research with the objective of understanding the citizen-focused requirements to support a safe return back to the high street. And they did a survey back in August where we had around about 300 responses from people between the ages of 18 and 78 across the UK, but predominantly in the Northeast. Where we were asking, well, what was like before COVID? What does it look like now? How's your mental well-being? Have you visited your local city centre since the lockdown was restricted? And around about 2/3 of people have. What precautions are you taking yourself? What else could be done? What would you like to see? Where would you look for information about planning a trip to the city centre? So a really sort of rich bit of a piece of user research. And it uncovered that there were a number of tensions that people were feeling. The main one being other people's behaviour. So actually, it was more concerns about how other people might behave that was putting some people off coming in, but also confusion about guidance, not really being clear about what they were allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. and a real sort of sticky area around public transport and the government narrative perhaps to avoid versus the reality of the situation where a lot of the buses were really empty and safe. And in terms of what people wanted, yes, they did want to know how busy it would be, but it wasn't just that. So they were also looking for information on shops and restaurants and the COVID measures that they'd put in place, and an explanation of the safety measures, perhaps, you know, some sort of confirmation about the guidance and the rules and what they were to do. We also reviewed the market landscape, so used, you know, people like Google, Into, Trainline, and we realised that there was loads of data already out there. And we took all of the findings and with Hedgehog worked up a brand new design, developing a very different product that in terms of tone of voice, language, use of colour, making sure that the content was informative but not alarming, making sure it was understandable and accessible, came up with, you know, a new product which we launched last Wednesday, and we've since had over 15,000 hits. So I'm now going to very bravely give you a live demo of the actual site. Bear with me a minute. Okay, you should now be able to see that. Excellent. See Egley nodding. So busyness is still the home page, and despite the change in scope, we still kept the name as we felt it already had a brand and a reputation attached to it. There's the biggest change here that you'll notice. I mean, there's been a few changes, but probably the most significant is, yes, we've kept the traffic light banner, but we've added these video stills of two key parts of the city centre, one which is obviously in Northumberland Street that I showed before, which is our main retail area, and Grey Street, which is just along from Northumberland Street. And essentially this just adds a bit more context to the traffic lights, so people can decide for themselves by looking at the images themselves whether they think that it's busy. And actually it's been really interesting on social media where we posted the pictures. In the comments you can see that people have a hugely different perspective about whether or not something is busy. So you'll have somebody looking at that saying, well, it looks pretty empty to me, and then you've got other people saying, oh no, there's crowds of people, I'm not going to go. So I think we thought that was a really fantastic measure to put in place, and it's been really popular. The second page is around, like I say, confirming, explaining some of those safety measures that have been put in place, and it's pretty flat content, if I'm honest. So we have got links to national COVID guidance and council guidance as well, but at least it is all in one place so that people can understand that if they see the signs, they know what it's about, they understand that there's a one-way system in place, the importance of wearing a face covering if you're indoors, and just reinforcing some of those messages that we're all pretty familiar with, but just making sure that there's clarity there for people. The third screen is around shops and restaurants, and actually what we found here was Google were already presenting a lot of this information. So actually what we decided to do was basically make How Busy Is Toon a bit of a one-stop shop for this type of information. So you can go on, and yes, it's just the Google Maps API. You can click on that and you can find some information about what the business has updated to say. So they've updated their business hours. They've maybe added in service changes, like no dining in, but contact-free delivery, and those kind of COVID features and COVID safety measures that people have put in place. And quite frankly, if Google are already doing that, and if businesses are already engaging with Google to do that, then we didn't want to replicate something that was already there, and just felt that it was important to, like I say, make this a bit more of a one-stop shop. And then Safe Travel and Parking is the other page, where we've kept the data about our sort of instrumented car parks to give an indication of parking level. So you can see here that the black, all of the pins represent car parking within the city centre. The black pins are where we don't have space level information or space level indications for those sites, or probably private sector car parks, for example. Where we do have the data, they are red, amber, green based on the number of spaces that are available. So actually, I'm quite surprised to see it's quite that busy in town. So, you know, there's obviously some really busy activity in the car park there. But actually, why not try and encourage people to park further afield where there's plenty of parking available? So I think this is somewhere, something that we're really keen to explore further, because it's still a pretty flat experience. Yeah, I think this is something where, you know, actually, how do you help provide that information to people, you know, maybe while they're already in town, or, you know, on their way into town, without them just having to check this. I think that's something we can do a lot more on. And again, we've linked here to enforcing this one-stop shop sort of approach, that we've gone here to links to the metros and the buses, and a bit of guidance as well. So loads of information there for people, and actually very little of it that we've had to just come up with ourselves. You know, there's lots that's been out there, and we also added on an about page to explain the website, explain the project, and include a reference to the Urban Observatory privacy statement as well, so that, again, if people had some questions about you know, where's the data coming from, then they can go and view the privacy statement and see that in more detail for themselves. So actually, I think it looks so much better than it did. I'm just really, really proud of the design. What we also did is start collecting some data from people through these emojicons about how do you feel about visiting the city centre, and thinking about how do we get some ongoing experience, ongoing feedback from people about their experiences. And if I go back onto the PowerPoint, which, there we go. Oh no. Oh my God. Well, that's okay. Is that all right view-wise for you?
Yes, it's just loaded up, but I think it's the first slide. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
fast forward.
Fast forward. Actually, I had the backup slides in case the live demo didn't work. Yeah, so the emojicon, actually, yeah, it providing us just with some interesting feedback, really, around how people do, you know, in a straight question, how do you feel about visiting the city centre? And actually, it is, you know, a little bit negative. So we're feeding that through to our comms team, who are continuing to use that to push positive messages, use the images and the data from the site to continue just to reinforce people around, you know, encouraging people to go back. I think in terms of you know, where next for it, and how you can use this, well, you can find out all of the information about the project on our site, where we've got the show and tell slides, blogs, included one that Luke did around privacy and data, which I think is really, really useful blog, and really load of links in there if that's something that you're interested in finding out more about. And of course, you can build it for your town and city. So the code is open there on GitHub, and we've also been supporting Essex and Heart's Digital Innovation Zone, because they were a bit concerned that, you know, they didn't necessarily have the infrastructure in place, but they really wanted to do it. And actually, the work that Luke Smith at the Urban Observatory has been doing with them demonstrates that actually a lot of places do have infrastructure in place that you can use. So if you have CCTV cameras in place, there's now software that you can use to use your CCTV estate to generate data, which can then be fed into your version of How Busy is Toon. So have a look at the blogs and have a look at the code as well. And then I guess more broadly, in terms of sort of final learning, inevitably the underpinning infrastructure that we had within the city allowed us to build it quickly, but don't necessarily think that just because you haven't got that you can't take something from this project. We definitely felt that, you know, no, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And my point about, if Google are already capturing that information, we're going to link to Google. We're not going to try and do that again. I guess, you know, the importance of being open about how the data is collected is something that we learned from the first release, where people did have this, you know, a small minority of people did have a, oh, well, this is Big Brother, you know, where's this information coming from? So the importance of making sure that we have that explained on the site as well. Sharing the data in a meaningful way, I think, has been demonstrated throughout, that actually, like I say, that data has been there, but in a pretty academic and statistical format. Actually, this is about, we've kind of come full circle, really, from having the raw data, then just having the traffic light, and then actually saying, well, to be honest, you maybe don't even need the traffic light, you just need to show the original video still that's driving the raw data in the first place. So yeah, work out what works for people. I think we've seen it has become important to people, and you know, we're getting, like I say, a number of really sort of, the volume of hits has kind of blown us away to make sure it's up to date, it's reliable, and it's accurate. And I think I'm just having a look at the question actually that comes through, because I think it probably linked to that. Trust was something that really did come out in the user research, and there was actually quite a lot of distrust in perhaps some of the messaging. I think we were all, you know, a bit jaded, to be honest, by the summer around, hang on, what are the messages, is it this, is it that, and trying to navigate through that. So we really felt that anything that we put out, we had to be absolutely confident that people could trust that. And I think probably we were confident to do that because we had a long-standing relationship with the Urban Observatory. We've been using the data that they've collected in many other policy decisions as well, and in other projects. So trust was very important to people, and it was very important for us to make sure that people knew that we trusted it as well. And I think by virtue of the fact that so many people have used it, and the feedback and the positive feedback that we've had, I think it's just been a brilliant project to lead, and I'm just so pleased that we were able to access the funding to move it on from the original version that it was in. So thanks to MHCLG for the funding to help us get to something that I'm really, really proud of. And I think it pushed us further again towards thinking about how we release other city data in a citizen-centred way.
Brilliant, thank you, Jenny. And you already answered one of the questions in the chat.
I answered the question.
If anyone has any more questions, feel free put it in the chat as well. It's not too late. But for the time being, just one more question to Jenny. So last time we spoke, I think we caught up earlier in the week, and you were saying that the site's already had over 10,000 visits. So with such a big community, so much take up, how would you like to take this forward? What would you like to see happen next with the site?
I think I'd really like to see other people pick it up and try and take it forward in their areas. I think, again, to just kind of reassure people that while we did have a lot of infrastructure already in place, and footfall monitoring and car parking data centres and things like that, actually you can get started with this using your existing CCTV estate as well. So there are ways of doing that. So I'd really like to see other people take it forward. And I think particularly the travel and transport element is something that came out really strongly in the user research, that probably, you know, there have been big sort of government messages around avoid public transport, use a car. Actually, I think we have to imagine that could carry on for quite a little bit longer, and actually, how do we make sure though that we don't just push people back to cars in a way that's damaging for the environment within the city centre as well? So I think there's something about how do we further share data about transport, travel and mobility with people that helps them make informed and safe choices, but is also COVID secure as well. So that for me is the area where I think we need to do more, and I really want to take that forward, because it is something, like I say, that came out really strongly as well. Yeah, but hopefully, I'm just, like I say, we're just absolutely thrilled with the uptake, and people have really taken to it.
That's brilliant. Yeah, thank you. And I completely agree on that. There's a question from Atul. He's asking if there's a way you can use the footfall data, feelings, analytics to help local businesses in the high street, considering the tough time they are going through.
I mean, it's worth me saying that one of our key partners in the project right from the outset has been our Business Improvement District, an E1. and they are obviously really, you know, keen to make sure that the businesses within their sort of patch are supported. So they've actually been, you know, an interesting balance, because they are very keen generally to promote cars, because actually people who drive cars are probably more likely to spend more money in the city centre, and you're more likely to take more bags and things like that back to your car. So I think, you know, we have worked with them to say, well, actually, what the important messages that you want to get over as well. And I think that definitely fits in with some of the work we want to do around transport and mobility as well. But the business community have been a key part in this throughout. It definitely just hasn't been something that's just a council thing, that's for sure.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I think we ran out of time for questions, so really quickly, I'll just wrap up. So thank you to both of our speakers today, and to everyone who joined us to hear about the work that these two projects have been doing. We will be making the recording available shortly, so look out for it on our YouTube channel. Obviously, if you're interested, you want to rewatch it again, but also feel free to share it with your colleagues who might be interested. We are planning 2 more showcases in the new year, so they will bring together all of our projects to share their findings and tools. So keep an eye out on our Eventbrite page for the announcements. You can also subscribe to a newsletter. And finally, I just wanted to say thank you again for joining us. Please look out for that follow-up email with links to more information. Everything will be shared with you, and everything that you heard from us, as I said, you know, it's coming to you probably by the end of the week. And yes, finally, thank you again. Have a lovely Christmas break, and we'll see you in the new year. Goodbye.